Welcome, horses. We welcome the horses in the audience as well as the humans to our podcast recording.
So I told him, you can't put the hat on the dog.
No, es un caballo, I said. All right. We're recording already, sadly.
Yes.
So let's do this. Here we go.
This podcast is made possible by listeners like you at patreon.com/acedetect. Offer void where prohibited. Your mileage may vary. Product may contain nuts.
This is the Daily Tech News for Tuesday, November 4th, 2014. I'm Tom Merritt. Joining me today, Patrick Beja, DTNS contributor, independent podcaster, host of The Rendezvous Tech, The Phileas Club, and Pixels, his new podcast about video games.
That is all correct, and we can talk about that a little bit later. But did you notice something for the people in the video? Did you see? Did you
shave
something?
Your hair? No, you still have hair.
Not completely. I went to the
hairdresser. Did you add pounds? No, you're still skinny.
No. Okay. I went to the hairdresser to be more handsome for when I'm going to be meeting you and going to BlizzCon next.
Oh, I'll have to shave my neck beard then. In response.
Yes,
no, you look great, man. And you look relaxed. You look excited. This is like your first week of independence, officially. Congratulations.
Yes, it is. Which I look relaxed, and that is weird, right? When I just quit my job without any unemployment benefits or anything. So yeah, it's because I'm actually excited, and also my French Patreon supporters are awesome. So that helps.
The abject terror inside is not showing one little bit.
It's super exciting. I mean, I'm a professional podcaster now.
Congratulations!
How is that even possible? I don't know, but it is. So
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's super cool.
But it's awesome. Well, let's get to some headlines here.
Let's.
GigaOM reports Amazon has made unlimited full-resolution photo storage available to subscribers of its Amazon Prime service. The feature was previously only available to the owners of an Amazon Fire Phone. The owner. To take advantage of the offer, Prime subscribers need to install the Amazon Cloud Drive Photos app for Android or iOS. The apps automatically upload photos taken on mobile devices. The photos can be shown back on a variety of devices, including PlayStations 3 and 4 and the Fire TV.
Sure, why not? I guess. TechCrunch reports Microsoft has partnered with Dropbox to integrate the cloud storage service into Microsoft Office 365. Dropbox users will be able to edit Office documents from Dropbox's app and access Dropbox docs from Office apps. And by the first half of 2015, Dropbox plans to support Office Online directly from its web app. That's super cool and kind of unexpected.
Yeah, I mean, as a Dropbox user myself, this is pretty exciting. I also use Office 365 for reasons. I try to use LibreOffice when I can, but you can't always. So I think this is great. I think it's another really good example of Satya Nadella's Microsoft doing the right thing and saying, yeah, sure, Dropbox competes with one of our products, but it's going to make another one of our products much better because Dropbox is winning in that space right now. So let's not cut off our nose to spite our face. Let's go with this. I think this is really cool.
On the other hand, it's kind of starting to feel like, they're supposedly going to have I mean, you still need 365, sure, to use the documents on the iPad, for example, on tablets. But it's starting to feel a little bit like at some point Microsoft has to charge for stuff, right? And if they keep
they're charging for Office
everything
365, so I think that's why this makes sense to me. Is hey, Dropbox users want to edit stuff now, use Office 365, and then get another subscriber potentially.
That is true.
ZDNet reports from the Google Cloud Platform Live Summit that Google announced several new cloud features for the enterprise. Google Cloud Interconnect will serve as a, quote, backbone for internet-scale apps with direct peering, carrier interconnect, and VPN connectivity options. Google also introduced Container Engine, a system for running and linking app components running on individual virtual machines, to launching portable Docker containers. And, of course, the inevitable price drops. They had up to 42% price drops on pretty much much all of their cloud products. First three stories here. Cloud. It's a cloudy day in technology news. We may be giving that Amazon thing short shrift, but there's lots of photo uploads like Dropbox, Google+. So I think that's smart for Amazon to say, hey, here's another perk for being a Prime subscriber. But overall, like, that is the strategy right now. You want to distinguish yourself, you do something in the cloud.
Well, I don't know if it is distinguishing yourself. It's getting with the program more than distinguishing yourself, I'd say. But
you say potato. Well, actually, I don't know what you say. Pomme, I say.
Pomme de terre. So apple from the earth. Pomme is apple, and that's what I say.
And then you get sued by Cupertino.
And then I say, ZDNet reports that Intel Capital will be investing $62 million in 16 different startups, including Brago Labs. Brago was founded by Shubham Banerjee, I guess that's how you pronounce it, who built a portable braille. How do you pronounce that?
Braille.
Braille?
That's
Braille,
how we Americans say braille.
Braille. In French, it's braille. Braille printer out of a Lego Mindstorm EV3 kit when he was 12 years old. Braille plus Lego equals Brago. Traditional Braille printers cost around $2,000, but Banerjee's first model costs about $350.
And that's just
cool.
one of the 16. All 16 of these are really interesting startups.
Yeah. Go ZDNet. I'm sorry, go Intel Capital. It's cool to see Intel invest in these kinds of companies, and I'm wondering how much of it is, well, actually all of it is probably trying to get into the VC game, and if those actually end up becoming successful enough, maybe not looking for an exit, but looking to fold them in, because they're smart. They're trying to bet on other things. And the really smart thing about this is that they're not making it internally through R&D and all of that, which could be bogged down a little bit by the Intel size. They're just letting outside people do it. That's a pretty cool strategy.
Reuters reports Nigerian phone tower group IHS has raised $2 billion in equity and $600 million in debt to finance infrastructure spending and acquisitions. Tower companies like IHS reduce building and maintenance costs for carriers by hosting multiple tenants on the same towers. Security costs and electricity shortages make tower operations more expensive in Africa. I wanted to throw this in here because I thought it was interesting that Africa, with its particular economy and cultural system, is doing the opposite of what we do here, where they're like, you know what, we need to centralize the infrastructure and have the carriers be separated from it somewhat, because that's just better for everybody. Whereas here in the United States, for instance, every carrier puts its own towers out there, and then they fight for spectrum, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, it's better for everybody in Africa. I don't know if what you guys are doing in the U.S. is actually better for everybody in the U.S. There is a whole discussion there. Let's not get into that. Recode's Walt Mossberg called up the head of MCX, Deckers Davidson, and asked him about the consortium's exclusivity clause that has some members turning off support for NFC-based payments like Google Wallet. Davidson stated that MCX needed exclusivity for now to provide breathing room for the development of QRNC. The exclusivity will apparently end in months, not years. Davidson also denied that MCX ordered Apple Pay. Mossberg is now shopping at Walgreens. So they denied that MCX ordered CVS to turn off Apple Pay, but they do have an exclusivity clause. So
I honestly don't believe a word that comes out of MCX anymore, because it's not that I don't believe it. I don't want to listen to it, because all they're trying to do is spin as hard as they can. Look, y'all turned off Apple Pay at CVS, at Rite Aid, and a few other places. But you turned off NFC. It wasn't just Apple Pay. It was Google Wallet, Apple Pay, PayPass, the whole shabil. Unless you're Meyer, in which case they're allowed to do it. Everything you say is trying to make it sound like it's not a big deal. Guess what? People think it's a big deal. So what you're doing isn't working.
Yeah, and also, even that, the exclusivity will apparently end in months, not years. That makes it even, I mean, you know,
Makes it, like, why
Apple
bother
Pay-
at all?
Yeah,
then?
exactly.
Yeah.
It's very, yeah.
The last of the 3 Pirate Bay co-founders has been arrested in Thailand, according to CNET, the last one who hadn't been arrested anyway. Friedrich Ney was caught crossing from Laos, where he had been living, into Thailand. Ney, along with fellow Pirate Bay co-founders Gottfried Svartholm Vorg and Peter Sunde and Swedish telecom owner Carl Lundström, were each sentenced to a year in prison and ordered to collectively pay 30 million Swedish kroner in damages to copyright holders back in 2009. And as you heard earlier, Vorg was also sentenced in a he was sentenced in a different case involving malware attack that he was found responsible for.
Yeah, it's by the way, 30 million Swedish kroners are about how much is this? 3 million euros, so $4 million, something like that.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's quite a bit of money. I don't know how they're going to come up with that. I honestly don't know how I feel about this. Certainly, anyway, again, a whole other conversation to be had about this. But I at the same time, I understand that the Pirate Bay is questionable at best, but it feels like they shouldn't be in prison. I don't know that they're in prison for this, but
yeah,
I
would argue,
weird
and like
about
you say, we could have a much longer conversation about this.
Yeah.
I don't think the punishment fits the crime. Sending someone to prison from here. It also certainly has not done anything to slow down the Pirate Bay, whose traffic continues to go up. I don't think the damages of Pirate Bay are accurately assessed. I'm not trying to argue there aren't any damages. I'm trying to argue that they are not accurately assessed. I think there's an outsized influence that has an almost personal grudge against the Pirate Bay because the Pirate Bay are kind of trolly in the way they go about their business. So yeah, this is not rational acting on any side.
Yeah, and actually, also, if you're on the other side of the argument, what are you going to do? Of course, you have to prosecute, which both sides of the arguments are interesting, and we're going to get into a similar discussion probably in the discussion topic.
Time for some news from you. These are submitted to our subreddit, dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. A few thousand people in there. I think it's around 3,600 folks in there every day submitting stories, voting on each other's stories. The more votes that you register, the better. If you don't vote, you can't complain. Actually, that's not true. You can totally complain. I just won't listen to you as much as if you did vote. The Verge reports that the Disney Movie Anywhere app has come to Android, which means you can buy a Disney movie on iTunes and watch it on your Android device. The reverse is true as well, since Disney already has an app for iOS. While the app is not yet available on Windows phones, Disney CTO Jamie Voris said the company intends to add new partners wherever it can. The Android app is available today, and a free digital copy of Wreck-It Ralph is waiting for you on the other end of the sign-up page. Thanks to Scotty Rowland for submitting that story.
So that's super cool, actually. I hadn't heard of this. So they know that you've purchased it somewhere, and they make it available everywhere for you. Through that app.
It's a lie. It's not Disney Movie Anywhere because you can't watch it yet on a Windows phone, for instance, as they just admitted. But it's Disney's version of Ultraviolet. Disney did not join the Ultraviolet consortium that most of the other major studios voted. Ultraviolet does the same thing, except they don't have Apple on board. But if you buy an Ultraviolet movie, say from Vudu, you can watch it on Target or Flickster. Anybody that's participating, you can watch it in any of those. So Disney has a coup here because they have the same system, but they got Google Play and Apple on board, which is where more people are watching things than Vudu and Target and Flickster.
So could we see other people join their Movie Anywhere thing?
I believe when it was launched, that was the idea, is that they were going to create their own, but they would be open to partners. I don't know if that's still true anymore. Everybody, I don't think it's much of a question though, because the Ultraviolet consortium, they're not leaving. They're going to stick together.
Yeah. Well, maybe they could include the Ultraviolet consortium in the Movie Anywhere consortium. You know, do that too. Anyway, Captain Kipper reports that Nest is releasing an update to its smart thermostat that will improve its ability to learn your schedule from your adjustments after the initial 2 weeks learning period. Customers had complained too much manual input had been required for the thermostat to learn properly over the first couple of weeks. The main screen will be updated as well to show the outside weather.
And Habituella Condulce submitted the Wired story that researchers at Newcastle University in the UK have discovered a weakness in chip and PIN credit cards. You often hear them called EMV. That stands for Europay, MasterCard, Visa. They combine to make the standard that is chip and VIN. Chip and PIN, not VIN. You don't have to put your vehicle identification number in. EMV cards can make contactless payments. That's where the vulnerability comes in. So when you make a contactless payment with a chip and PIN card, you skip the PIN part if the transaction is less than £20 when processed in the UK. Unless, this is what they found out, the transaction isn't in pounds. Then apparently there is no limit. So someone could go around carrying a malicious terminal, say to Heathrow Airport, where you're headed tomorrow, Patrick, and conduct wireless transactions in non-UK currencies on passers-by without their knowledge. Researchers plan to present their findings this week at an ACM conference on computer and communications security in Arizona.
So I think only the cards issued in the UK are subject to that vulnerability, right?
I couldn't tell if it was issued or processed, but I do. Okay. I don't believe this is true if you're outside of the UK. I think the card has to be processed in the UK. Right.
And also, the article sort of made it sound like chip and PIN was vulnerable, which it kind of is, because but you still have to input your PIN code. So it's not really. I really think chip and PIN is so much better than signing your receipt. And the article, what I didn't like was it was sort of implying, chip and PIN is not that. It wasn't super clear the way it was written. So I just want to emphasize.
So Patrick has a problem with the article, but the facts are that
I just want to emphasize chip and PIN is fine. It's
and that's
the contactless.
It's the contactless chip and PIN payment, right? So I mean, don't confuse people. You do use your chip and PIN card, your EMV card, for contactless payments in some cases, and that's where this vulnerability is they put the limit at £20, but they didn't account for other currencies. And so if somebody were to create a terminal, and they use Heathrow as an example because that's a place where multiple currency transactions wouldn't be as noticeable because you have people from all over the world processing transactions, and therefore you might be able to get away with this. It's not something where you need to put a tinfoil hat on, though. You're absolutely right. It is a vulnerability that these security researchers found, and they're saying, hey, you know what? You need to address this.
I just want to, I guess where I'm coming from is we've had chip and PIN for forever, for decades, and contactless transactions are new for us. And that's, anyway, don't throw up with the bathwater.
Yeah, I don't think anybody was, and no one on this show was suggesting that.
Fair enough.
So you're reacting to something that, unless you've read the Wired article, nobody is going to see.
All right, fine.
Although we will link to the Wired article. So if you read it, keep what Patrick said in mind. And that's a look at the headlines. All right, let's get to our main discussion today. There was an article in the Financial Times, an opinion column, a letter, I'm not sure what you would call it, from Robert Hannigan. He's the newly appointed director of GCHQ, the surveillance agency of the United Kingdom. He was writing in the Financial Times about the fact that tech companies need to cooperate with the government if you want to catch bad guys, which, let's be honest, no matter what you think of what he wrote, that on the face of it is not a bad premise. Like, hey, let's all work together to catch the bad guys. The devil's in the details, of course. He came out and I think incensed the internet by saying that Facebook and Twitter have become the command and control networks of choice for terrorists. And a lot of people are just not going to listen to anything else he says after that. if you read through the rest of it, I have some problems with how he constructs his arguments, but I actually think he has some points in here that are worth making. So let's move through some selected quotes from the article. I highly encourage folks to read it. Financial Times requires a subscription to read some things, but you get a certain amount of free articles per month. So if you haven't been visiting the Financial Times a lot, you should be able to read this for free. After he incites the internet to outrage by calling Facebook and Twitter terrorists, essentially, he points out that groups like Islamic State, he calls them ISIS, have embraced the web as a noisy channel in which to promote itself, intimidate people, and radicalize new recruits. Now, Patrick, that's actually true. I mean, we've seen these horrible videos. There's definitely massive amounts of Twitter posts going around. This is the action of free speech, though, at work. You don't get to crash down on the speech because you don't like it, right?
Well, depends on the country, actually.
Well, yeah.
France,
No, I'm just saying
yeah.
the principle of free speech, which the UK sort of has.
Sure, yeah. And I think this is the real... it is a really important point to make because, of course, as you were saying earlier, I think everyone on the internet is going to go crazy when we hear what he wants to do on the issues of privacy and encryption. And I think it's important to remember that there is a real issue, that these channels are actually being used for at best unsavory things, and encryption. I don't know if you want to go into encryption already, but encryption is an issue for those trying dangers.
Well, his next quote that I did pull was techniques for encrypting messages or making them anonymous, which were once the preserve of the most sophisticated criminals or nation states, now come as standard. I have two problems with this. One, he just complained about everyone being freely posting and inciting things, and then complained that it's all secret and encrypted. So he's complaining about two separate things. He made it sound, the way he wrote them, as if these were one and the same problem. You can't have one. You can't say everything's too open and free, but also everything's too encrypted, right? The other thing is, that's just not true. Standard heavy encryption has been freely available for more than a decade for everyone. All that has changed is that the tech companies have done what I consider to be a very responsible thing and said, you know what, we're going to make it easier for the average user to take advantage of strong encryption for their own protection.
And it's also, I guess, there's one central question here, which is, can law enforcement, if they have something that is important enough, that is encrypted, can they decrypt it and have access to the information? Let's say if the NSA or GCHQ has one essential piece of information that they really need to know what's inside the encrypted shell, can they break the encryption?
Yeah.
Or not?
He's implying that they can't. That they would need the help of the tech companies. Don't put this encryption standard, or perhaps give us a backdoor. A lot of people are reporting that he's asked for a backdoor. That has been asked by other spy heads in other countries, like the United States, for instance. He never mentions that specifically in this. But what he is implying is that you're now allowing people to have access to locks that we can't break. He's by implication.
Right.
We don't know if that's true. No encryption is unbreakable, theoretically. Whether they have the practical means to break strong encryption or not, we assume they don't. So I'd give this one to him that, like, hey, if a criminal with, probable cause has encrypted their data, you might not be able to get to it.
And that's the big question and the big issue, because I can see how it can be at least frustrating and making people nervous that anyone has access to tools that make communication completely unbreakable. I mean, certainly we all, even people who are very much into encryption and privacy, can understand that at some point the law enforcement agencies might need to break the encryption somewhere. What we're all saying, or the reasonable argument is, you shouldn't be mass spying on everyone. I don't think we're saying you should never be able to break any encryption anywhere. And of course, the issue is this is an all or nothing situation, which we've been pushed to by the abuses of those agencies, of those bodies of government.
Well, you're bringing up the point of debate, which is, and he says in this article, there is no such thing as an absolute right to privacy. Okay, let's debate that. Where are the lines, right? Because in many ways, not just the government surveillance way, there is no such thing as an absolute right to privacy. If you're walking down the street, you can't say, no one can look at me. I have an absolute right to privacy. You can't do that. So he's right. There needs to be a reasonable debate about the checks and balances and the trade-offs of security versus privacy. And he says, for our part, intelligence agencies such as GCHQ need to enter the public debate about privacy. Totally agree with him. I think that's great. He says, then he goes on to talk about the uses of these platforms, etc. And then he says, I suspect most ordinary users of the internet do not want the media platforms they use with their friends and families to facilitate murder or child abuse. Hey, guess what? You're 100% right. Pretty much nobody wants anything to support murder or child abuse. That adds absolutely nothing to this debate and undermines your credibility in my perspective, because you just said, and if you are against what I believe, you support murdering babies, apparently. And that's, come on, that's just awful.
Yeah, it's really inelegant of him to say like this, because he is undermining his own point, which was a good point, as you're saying. And even beyond the question of do we have an absolute right to privacy, there's a question of, let's say we have a right to privacy in theory. At some point, when you have the Jack Bauer moment and you have to decrypt the message before the bomb explodes and blows up, half California, then you do want to, be able to decrypt this message. And the worst, I don't know, the thing that irks me the most in this, and this is sort of an emotional reaction, and I understand it doesn't make the debate move forward, it's really, really difficult to hear these directors of spy agencies, essentially, repeatedly come to us, because as you said, he's not the first one, and tell us, but really, guys, we need to have access to your things, and the encryption is not a good thing, when the encryption is coming as a reaction to abuse by agencies such as his. And actually the GCHQ was implicated in the...
I have a problem with saying the encryption comes as a reaction to Snowden
Doesn't
or anything.
it?
No, it doesn't. The encryption was there before.
Yes, it does.
It was good policy. Like putting a good solid lock on your door is good policy. The awareness of the need of encryption has certainly risen in reaction to these revelations. But the existence of encryption, the ability to implement it, and the necessity of implementing it as a security measure have not changed just because the revelations came that the NSA was spying on.
You're being a well-actually person, Tom. It doesn't matter that the encryption, in theory, the encryption possibilities were there before the Snowden leaks. What matters is, after the Snowden leaks, and because of them, people have been made aware of its importance, and I'm suspecting that the reason all of these companies have been switching it to on by default is because of that increased awareness. And
no, you're right about that.
So,
I mean, the EFF messaging scorecard came out. There are new products that are much better at protecting your privacy without you having to do a lot of work to turn it on that exist. So you're right about that. Let me finish up going through the quotes here, though, because here's what we're doing is what he's asking for. He says the challenge can only be met with greater cooperation from technology companies. You might want to think that means he's asking for a backdoor, but it doesn't have to mean that. It could mean them having a dialogue about where the lines are, right? Coming up with better arrangements for facilitating lawful investigation by security and law enforcement agencies than we have now. So again, we're going to have a debate about what lawful should be, but I don't disagree with that. They should have good arrangements for facilitating lawful investigation. And this is the last line he says. He concludes, it should be a deal rooted in the democratic values we share. That means addressing some uncomfortable truths. Better to do it now than in the aftermath of greater violence. Borders on throwing out the the terrorist win card again there, but I think he's right. I don't think that's unreasonable to say, let's figure this out now. Let's not wait for a tragedy to happen because we're more likely to be reasonable now. He's sort of implying that the uncomfortable truths are all on the side of the technology companies. That's not true. The uncomfortable truths are on both sides, and the uncomfortable truths are why he's writing this, because the uncomfortable truth is they've been overstepping their bounds in how they provide surveillance. But to get back to where you're talking about, Patrick, I think the one disagreement we might have is I don't think anyone should ever have a backdoor to encryption for any reason, because the vast majority of us are innocent, and all that's going to do is give hackers and abusers of power the ability to get into things that they otherwise wouldn't have got into. And there is very little, if no evidence, that it actually leads to greater enforcement or prevention of bad actors.
How did I become director of GCHQ Robert Hannigan? I never said we needed backdoors.
Okay,
that's
all right,
not absolutely not what I'm saying.
I said, well, we may disagree, but maybe I'm right.
Right. Well, I think the quote, the first quote you mentioned here, is really important because he's saying we have to come up with better arrangements. And my understanding of this whole thing is that there's not really a middle ground. It's either encrypted by default and you want to support security and privacy, or you don't encrypt it, or you leave it by off by default, which is coming back to the situation we've had before. I don't think anyone wants to go there because it defeats the whole purpose. I don't know that there is an arrangement. They're never going to get no encryption, or this whole thing would have been for nothing. And if they put in a back door, then again, the whole thing is pointless. So I really don't think they should get a back door. I don't know what kind of arrangement. Maybe I'm not seeing it, but I don't know what kind of arrangements they could get that would give the GCHQ and the FBI satisfaction.
Well, right now, I guess I'm thinking of that in a very broad sense. Right now, GCHQ, NSA, and the tech companies are at odds. That's why Robert Hannigan's writing this, because he's frustrated that the tech companies have all backed out of being very cooperative, maybe too cooperative in lots of cases, to being very skittish about being cooperative. Well, they're cooperating in the ways that they legally have to, but they've backed off a lot. They've started pressing for more disclosure, and they've started turning on encryption. Whereas before, they might have been like, well, the less we turn on, make people turn, it's still their choice to turn it on or not, right? So they're cooperating less. And I think the kinds of arrangements could be not decrypting things, but saying like, hey, let's have a better method of transparency. Let's have a better method of reporting. Let's have better courts. I mean, I guess what you're saying is it sounds like all the arrangements would be for the benefit of the tech companies and the populace and not so much for the surveillance. But you can't decide that until you've had the conversations about it publicly, debated. What is important to catch the bad guys, because I 100% agree with you there. We need to give them tools to catch the bad guys, but how can we do it without violating the rights of the majority of the populace? And my problem with Hannigan is he tends to want to say, really, you just need to give us all the control and trust us that we won't abuse it.
But the thing is, the core of the issue is the encryption of all of those devices. So we could dance around it and we could try and find other ways of, cooperating. But if the core of the issue, which both the FBI director and the GCHQ director have been pointing to, is the default encryption of all of the devices and communication and all of that. And if that's what they're asking, again, since I don't think there's any middle ground, if that's what they're asking, then I don't think it's possible to solve. Maybe they're pushing the encryption question to try and get something else.
I don't agree that encryption is the only issue. It's certainly a major issue, but I'm not going to say there aren't other things that they could do. Hannigan's saying that. He's like, basically, encryption is the problem, and Twitter and Facebook not shutting down every account that we want. Those are the two things
well,
he seems to want here.
Ja-
And I think
James
there are
Comey
other
was
ways.
saying that as well.
I bet if you get a bunch of smart people in the room, you could come up with other ways of creatively collaborating that protect innocent people's rights as well as innocent people's lives. I don't think it's impossible to do both. I don't think you have to provide a backdoor to encryption or not install encryption by default to do it.
Well, I certainly hope there is a solution somewhere.
I agree. And I think this is important. And really where I was going with a lot of this was we have to change the laws in the end, right? Because that's where some of the problem is the laws don't allow certain things that maybe they should to help law enforcement, but they do allow lots of things that they shouldn't. So,
well, yeah, maybe, you know what? As you often say, the DTS is incredibly smart and knows a lot more than we do usually. So if there are things that could be done without breaking the encryption or without installing a backdoor, I'd be really interested to know. Things that are currently possible or available to the law enforcement agencies that could be enabled. I honestly don't see what it would be, but if there are, please let us know. I'd be
look,
very interested.
he complained that these guys are speaking in public more often. That's a good thing in a way. It's more intel that you can gather. Maybe some of these guys who do big data can crunch that data from the people who are speaking in public and come up with some insights to help combat them. There's just one idea off the top of my head. I'm not even sure it's a good one, but at least it's an idea. All right. Well, we've gone way long on this, so let's speed through our pick of the day from Elliot. Asana.com is a project management online platform meant for companies to work through projects, collaborate, and organize. The creators of Asana are Dustin Moskovitz, co-founder of Facebook, and Justin Rosenstein. Now, I do not use this for work, says Elliot, but rather all projects I have, being a homeowner and car enthusiast. When doing a full restoration on my Datsun, I can keep track of progress, ordering of parts, and completed tasks. Best part about Asana is it's free. Just log in and start a project. So check it out, Asana.com. I haven't used it. Jill Duffy at PC Mag gave it a great review. She did point out there's no offline capabilities. It's not ideal for graphics-intensive projects or collaborative projects because there's no chat or no message boards. But if you got something like what Elliot's doing, it might be worth a shot. Thanks for sending that, Elliot.
I think it was a pick a few months ago. I seem to remember it.
Oh, okay.
Maybe.
Well, thank you again.
Double pick.
Then Elliot, and send your picks to feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. And you can find my picks at dailytechnewsshow.com/picks. We got a call. We got lots of stuff. Alan Char discovered that he actually finds Taylor Swift to be pretty good. And he looked for his CD on Amazon, found that it's $10 and includes the MP3s, or you can buy just the MP3s for $13. And he was curious, like, why that would be. You know what? That's been the case for a few years now, where if you buy the CDs, Amazon has a program where they give you the MP3s, and the CDs are less expensive because they want to boost those CD sales. They want to keep those CD sales up. Also got an email here from Sam in Atlanta, who was saying he uses Spotify for free and then buys things on iTunes, so it does work like radio for him. But he's tempted to pay for Spotify Premium, in which case he wouldn't buy things on iTunes, and he wants to make sure that artists are properly compensated. So he's not sure whether he should go to Spotify Premium or that point. The artist would say no. And Dan Patterson has a voicemail. He called us with some insights on the economics of intellectual property regarding Spotify and the Taylor Swift incident.
Hey, Tom, Dan Patterson here for your conversation yesterday about Taylor Swift in the music business. Taylor's move was an expression of the power of her brand, right? That's the true value that something like Taylor Swift can bring to a music service, and saying, we have this weight, I have this weight, this power, this draws subscribers or brings customers in. We are exerting some of our power by removing it from the service. Everyone in the music business knows it. You're right. What you guys talked about yesterday was dead on. You can make a little money from merch. You can make a little money from touring. You can make a little money from the record. But those are all low-margin, high-risk enterprises. There's no real guaranteed return on investment there. Everyone in the music business knows that the path to monetization is through the intellectual property, the value of the songs themselves, right? Publishing, So make a deal with ASCAP, BMI, CSAC. That's the path to making money. I would suspect that's also the path to making money for Taylor Swift when it comes to Spotify, RDO, or the other streaming services, in that there's a tremendous value to the license, right? The publishing value, the rights to her music, her brand, have gone up exponentially over the last half decade or so. So what she's really doing is saying, you want Taylor Swift, you got to pony up the rights, the licensing, the intellectual property tax to do this right. All right, just my 2 cents. Love the show. Keep it going.
And that, he may have hit on the one thing that we didn't talk about yesterday, which is there is less variability in the rate, right? Like if your track is played more often, you're going to make more money on Spotify, but you're not going to make extra money because of your brand being big, right? And Taylor Swift may be very wisely as a business person saying, you know what? Even if my share with the tracks that were played is 8 cents a track, I deserve 10. You should pay me a premium on top of that just to have access to my brand at all because it's so valuable.
Yeah, it does make sense in a very free market kind of way.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Patrick Beja. Always good to have you on board. Congratulations on the launch of Pixels, by the way. Thanks for having me on. That was fun.
Thank you very much. Thanks. If I can take a couple of minutes to plug 2 projects. As listeners know, I've been contemplating this move for a while, and now it's finally here, and there are a couple of shows in English that I'm launching or relaunching. The first one is, as you said, Pixels, which is a show about video games, but with a slightly more analytical angle to it, and I think the first episode was really interesting. It's a bit long, a bit heavy, but we cover with Tom and a couple of journalists from Europe, video game journalists, we cover the entire state of the industry. We go through every platform and sort of analyze each, and I think it turned out pretty well. It's an hour and 45 minutes for this show, so you can go and listen to that if you're interested. There's also another one, a project that I had been running actually for 4 years almost. It's called the Phileas Club, from Phileas Fogg, around the world in 80 days. And it was a show where I would invite people from different controlled every month to comment on the current affairs and news, and you would get like perspective on news stories from places that you wouldn't really have thought of. So we would have people from Saudi Arabia and South Africa and Thailand, and of course the US, Canada, Sweden, all of that, and it was a show that I really, really loved because we had insightful conversation and we remained friends throughout all of these discussions. And I'm bringing it back. We'll have the first new episode in a few weeks, end of November. And I'm also launching a Patreon for it. This is sort of the English leg of my crowdfunding effort for my professional podcasting. So if you think, you might be interested in a show like this, or if you've had experience with it in the past and you enjoyed it, then please consider go looking at it on FrenchSpin.com. That's also where you'll find the Pixels show. So FrenchSpin.com for both of those, and I hope you really enjoy them.
Thanks, man. Go check it out. Do that. Help Patrick out. Plenty of people helping us out, and we appreciate every single one of them. All 4,538 patrons. DailyTechNewsShow.com/donate is the place where they went to figure out how to support this show. But you can hold off on that for a day. Go help Patrick out. Right?
If you have lots of money,
yeah,
and you've already donated to DTNS, and you're like, I have another couple of bucks lying around, I'd appreciate.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be a lot. Yeah, just share the love.
Or just subscribe to the show, and when you listen to the next episode and you think you like it, then at some point you can decide.
Don't forget, you can have a voice in what stories we cover at our subreddit, dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. You can email us, feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. Give us a call, 512-59-DAILY. That's 512-593-2459. And listen to the show live at mobile.alphageekradio.com, 4:30 Eastern, 1:30 Pacific, Monday through Friday. Our website is dailytechnewsshow.com. We'll be back tomorrow with Peter Wells from Reckoner, Australia. Talk to you then.
About this and other shows, visit frogpants.com. Audio programs so good, it's like you're there.
Yay! Yay! Good stuff.
Thank you for the for letting me go long on the plugging.
Well, we went long in general, so it's totally fine.
What's your target is 35 minutes nowadays?
No, it's 30.
30 still, okay. Because it seems no show is ever at 30. But.
Yeah, well, lately they've been a little longer. We've had some meatier topics, I guess, but sometimes they do.
So I'll keep that in mind in the future.
Yeah,
I
stop being so interesting to talk to, Patrick.
No, but I think I sort of have a the idea that on the headlines we should say a few words for each story, and that's not necessarily the case. But I sort of feel like
I've been doing that lately, though, and I think people like it. So I'm just trying to feel my way. One of the things that the first half of the year we really struggled with was how to treat the headlines best. Should we race through them, which some people liked? Or should we have a little bit to say? And it seems like more people like it when we have a little bit of insight to say. So what I would say to you is don't feel like you have to come up with something. Like the Amazon story, for instance, you just were like, that's interesting. Totally fine. If you got nothing to say, don't say it. But also I wouldn't, on the other end, I wouldn't hold back from having a comment if you got one. Because I think people do like that.
All right, cool. That's what I'll do.
What do we got for titles, Jenny?
Well, we have a great title in Braille.
Yes, I see that. T2T2, very clever. Not sure how I would pull that off. I guess I could.
It spells Intel, more or less. It's hard to convert.
Well, I can just copy and paste it, actually.
Well, it doesn't. The problem is it doesn't quite spell Intel. I looked it up.
Oh, really?
Hey, office mate, I'm live on the air. Could you make more noise? Sorry. Thank you.
That was harsh.
I only talk to people I'm married to that way. It spells like kind of Intel, but not quite. So
it's only 4 letters.
Yeah, it's hard. It's just hard to do them, and you can't copy and paste a Braille translate. I did a lot of work on this during the show.
Okay.
So I don't know. I'm torn because I really think it's one of my favorites, but it's not exactly Intel.
Actually, I really, really like the second one.
Yes. And then we've got Pirate Bay co-founders take a wrong turn at Albuquerque. I like that. Candy-coated encryption shell.
Nobody likes GCHQQ?
No, I like it. Sorry, I'm listening. It's the number 2.
Yeah. Thanks for linking to the links for my shows, people.
Yay. Is that Beatmaster?
Yay. Yeah. Is Beatmaster the official linker to everything?
Yeah, he's taken that on. He makes sure we're live on Diamond Club and then posts the links throughout the show. He's awesome. Thank you, Beatmaster.
Beatmaster, you're awesome. 5 votes for GCHQQ. Come on, you can do it. You can overtake the Braille thing, the Braille thing.
Fishy chip and pin issues. I always like looking in the lower rankings.
Dangers.
Wow, there's a ton of titles today.
TVZ gone. I missed the infrastructure down in Africa. Gonna take some time. This is another one from Fred. Lego My Brago. Which I like. Yeah. All right. Those are my ones.
TTNS does not support murdering babies. T2T2, I like it.
I saw him
Well,
submit
there's
that
that.
in the chat room. Okay. I'm going to go GCHQQ, I guess. Unless we can confirm Intel and Braille.
But are you actually seeing stuff? I'm just seeing the character not found, square things.
Oh, really? No, I see him.
Yeah.
I see
Oh,
him.
okay. Are you using Chrome or?
Yes.
That's weird. Strange.
I noticed there are a lot of obviously English into Braille translators, but there are not a lot of Braille to English translators.
Well, if you do Intel, does it translate it?
Yeah, I tried that and it didn't quite come out. Like one Braille translator turned that into 9tel. I don't know why.
Really? 9!
9tel. Oh, it says Tinvec, it's DTNS in Braille. That's why. But it's funny because it has 2 of the letters from Intel.
N and T.
Yeah. Huh. Well, then it is the correct spelling if you want to. I don't know how you would grab. I tried to grab those characters too.
Oh, I was able to cut and paste them, but now I'm not, since we're not even sure what it, like, since we can't confirm what it actually spells. I'm not saying that T2T2 is wrong. I want to make absolutely sure before I use something like that. Because if you don't do it right, you end up bringing down more wrath than if you had done it right. Than if you didn't do it at all.
Wrath of.
When I searched that, I didn't get anything. Apparently, you can't search Braille characters in Google. It won't give you a result.
Yeah. Seems to be a missing piece here on the internet. The first place I went was Google Translate, and it didn't do it, which is interesting. And then you search a Braille translator, and it sort of works, but only one way. Let's see, DTNS. The European Blind Union has the best one.
Tinvec put a link in their chat room. I don't know.
Yeah, it's sort of, it's hard. It's, keeps adding extra characters that I don't understand why. Oh, it's because it's capital. I see. The first 2, it's interesting. The first 2 are capital. They capitalize this.
All right, guys, I think I'm going to go. I need to pack and do things.
Well, you don't want to
I'm
learn
leaving
Braille?
really early.
What's your problem?
I already know Braille, okay?
Oh, so
No,
we
I
could have
don't.
just had you decide this, apparently.
Yes.
Yeah.
I decided not to get involved.
Right. You're a Braille coward.
Maybe I wanted you to learn for yourself.
Oh, you did it
think
for our
about
own
that?
good.
There you go.
All right, well, I'll see you tomorrow evening.
Yes, we will. Hopefully.
Yay!
All right. See you tomorrow, guys.
Bye.
All right, thanks, Patrick.
Thanks, chat room. Love you. Bye.
Ooh, that's good.
Oh, use ASCII Braille. I don't know. This is just making me more and more reluctant.
I think GCHQQ is strong.
It is. The force is strong in that one. You know, I've been watching Star Wars Rebels, and it's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's a kid show. Got to keep that in mind. It's a kid show. But like yesterday's episode had some really strong Star Wars-y feel to it.
All right. I dig it. Oh, the New York Times' review of Interstellar is out. Now I find out if all my dreams will be dashed.
What do they say? What does
it
it have a
just-
top line?
It's sort of neutral.
Okay.
Well, yeah, it doesn't say like good or bad in the title. The headline is "Off to the Stars with Grief, Dread, and Regret."
Okay, well, that's just the plot.
I know. So
We
it
think.
didn't go for good or bad.
Or
let me see
is
the
it?
first paragraph here.
Okay. Is that a go?
It's A.O. Scott, so it's going to be like the last paragraph where we decide whether we like it or not. Let's see.
I can't. Brian wanted me to see either that or Big Six, and I don't think I have time to see either one of them. I might have time to see one of them, but I don't know which one he's going to see. I have a feeling he's going to try to see both.
I think it's generally coming down on this. It's very plot heavy, this review, but it's generally coming down on the side of.
Is that what they do when they really don't know what they think? They just describe what happened?
Yeah, the A.O. Scott is usually. I think he likes it. I think. Haha, there's a wonderful line in this review that I just found that says, "Nobody goes to a Christopher Nolan movie for laughs."
Fair enough.
Which is so true.
He don't do comedy. Nobody gets married at the end.
A friend of mine, it's not my story to tell, but a friend of mine just told me an amazing story about the brothers Nolan that someday I'm going to get him somewhere and have him tell because it cracked me up.
See,
and it had to do
what do
with
you do?
the-
Now
I
you
know.
just make me want to bully you into telling it. Like,
I
why
know,
did
I
you do
can't,
that?
though. I can't tell other people's stories, but it's a great story.
Well, then why'd you bring it up?
Because it's a great story. And it
But it's
reminded
not
me.
a great story for us.
Well, you should have my friends.
So now pull yourself up by your bootstraps, Merritt, and get yourself some better friends who know
That's
better
what I'm
stories.
talking about.
That's funny.
I think the New York Times liked Interstellar, but it is hard to tell.
That's interesting. That's interesting itself right there. It's almost like maybe they don't know what to make of it.
Apparently, also without going into any details, the movie is polarizing reviewers in a way that it has not, that we have not seen lately.
Yeah, it's gonna be a movie draft make or break for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because doesn't Scott Johnson has that. Scott has both Big Hero 6 and Interstellar.
Damn.
He's got pretty much everybody except the people going to see the Stephen Hawking movie. By the way, who releases The Theory of Everything the same week as Interstellar? I mean, that just seems like
I
bad
know.
scheduling. All right. I think I've got this thing published.
Rock and roll.
That was long today, though.
Oh my God, yeah. It was good.
All right.
I feel like you can't have a brief description about encryption and privacy and the NSA and the GCHQ.
Yeah, you're piling a lot of things up there, that's
Yeah.
for sure.
It's like, all right.
Okay. That's it. All right, we're out of the post. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll talk to you later.